So we're going to call the meeting to order. This is the Stockbridge Historical Commission reviewing applications for the community preservation funds that are in the category of historic preservation. That's a requirement of the statute, and we'd just like to point out that this is not a meeting where we're voting on the funding. We're voting whether the qualifications are proper for the applications. So I think we'll start with the Berkshire Theater Group. I'm also just going to say at the start that only 3 applicants conferred with the Stockbridge Historical Commission, so there may be some issues with some of these. Do you have these in front of you too? This is the plan for their project. They are requesting funding to create archival storage and a museum exhibition space, if I understand this correctly. In 6 years, the Playhouse will have reached its 100th anniversary. So they're doing a major fundraising project. And part of that is doing some changes to the building. When they came to the public meeting, they were talking about hiring a person, and they were told specifically by the chair that we can't fund personnel, but we could be funding a consultant, an archival consultant out of the administrative funds, which I think is what can qualify at this point because there isn't really a phase plan yet.
So, you know, thinking about those 3 steps under the Community Preservation Act, we first, right. So the interesting thing about this, as I understood it, is they're not really focusing on this application on the building restoration project, but they are focusing on doing something with these archives.
Correct. But they ask.
It says the new storage and display area.
So I'm looking at these plans and I don't see any place articulated as being a new storage area. In fact, none of the spaces are identified. So I just, only concern here is it's an attic or cellar that they're planning to store in because it's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, I vaguely remember hearing from somebody that it was going to be upstairs, like, I
Okay.
think they're
So I've
somehow
got,
getting rid of the balconies.
okay, here's the second floor. But that would either be, the blue lines, I think, indicate new construction. So it's either this, or this. And I would say that's the balcony.
Right, so just to try to understand what they're asking for, I'm reading sort of midway down question 1.2. This grant will support the engagement of professional consultants to begin the process of identification and organization of all materials, as well as developing a plan for their safe, more efficient storage and display. In addition, we plan to use these funds for physical improvements, I think Maria was saying this, to the current archive space, as well as the requisite initial preparatory work on the new space. So it almost seems like it's 2 things. 1, hire the consultant to like start figuring out what the heck all this stuff is. And 2, start making physical improvements to the current archive space, as well as the requisite initial preparatory work for the new space. So again, thinking about the Community Preservation Act, so we have to find first, is this money for a building or artifact? And it seems like maybe it's some of both. Like, and I had missed that when I had thought about it earlier. I'm glad you pointed that out, Maria. It seems like this is partly for work on restoring the building so they can store these artifacts properly, and partly for work on hiring this consultant to begin to the
Organizing
process of
catalog.
identification, organizing the materials. So it strikes me, the building part, at least it's easy for us to say step one is satisfied. We've in the past found that the building is a historic building. I think it's on the National Register in its own right, is that
Yeah, it
correct?
was independently listed in 1976. So
So let me start to put that in our minutes while you all are still thinking.
trying to see. Oh, okay.
So now, just to sort of focus initially, let me read you what I've got in our proposed draft minutes so far. The commission began its review of this application pursuant to the 3 steps in the attached CPC flow chart and concluded that the first 2 steps are satisfied, i.e., the application involves 1, a building, comma, which is the Berkshire Playhouse building, which is individually listed on the National Register, open parens, steps 1 and 2, because you've got a building
And
and you've got it
artifacts,
listed on
yes.
the historic registry. And then we have to go to 2, so maybe I should do A and B, just not to be so confusing with my 1s and 2s. So A is work on the building, so we can store these archives properly or display them. And then B, quote, documents or artifacts, I'm just pulling the language out of the CPA, namely archival materials and records dating from the 1928 founding of the Berkshire Theater Festival Playhouse. Oh, I see, I already talked about it being on the register. No. Okay. Okay, and B, documents or artifacts, namely archival materials and records dating from the 1928 founding of the Playhouse. That's step 1. Now, for these archival materials, it strikes me we need to sort of have a second bit of analysis because they're not on the National Register.
Yeah.
So turning to the second step, the question is whether we find that the subject archives are significant to the history, archaeology, architecture, or culture of Stockbridge. It seems to me that the answer to that is yes. Do you all have a view?
I would agree. Yeah.
So I've got here, the SHC considered that question and found that the archives are significant to the history and culture of Stockbridge. The SHC based its finding upon the fact that the Playhouse has since 1928 been a unique and historic cultural center in Stockbridge, hosting summer theater for nearly a century, including some of the nation's leading actors and actresses for theater productions that have been essential to the cultural history of Stockbridge. Does that sound like something we all
I think
agree with?
that covers the stacks of stuff.
And then so now the question is step 3, which I think is the most difficult one. Will the funds be spent on one of the following actions? So one is rehabilitation or restoration of the resource. So it strikes me that as to the building, we could find that. This is a big project. This is part of the big project. It's something that comes up in some more of these applications. I think if you have work that's part of a big capital project on a historic building, that is clearly, I think, rehabilitation and restoration, so long as it's done under the Secretary's standards. So it strikes me as to the building work, that's sort of an easy one. I think we have to do a little more thinking as to the archives. I think you'd be talking preservation of a historic resource as to the archives. And preservation means protection of personal or real property from injury, harm, or destruction. I don't know if hiring this guy to go through it is preservation.
Well, I think we can propose this, and I certainly am on the floor, they already say right here, this grant is intended to jumpstart the
You're in
creation
question 3 in the
of a
application.
new, archive, story, and display area, including the engagement of a consultant not to exceed.
Ah,
So this consultant, and you can get a consultant to do this practically for free from some of the agencies out there, which we can recommend to them. And that would allow them to have a plan. Because right now, I'll bet you if we ask how many linear feet of archives they have, because that's archival language for how much stuff you have, they probably don't know. So it seems to be in several storage areas. I don't think it's all in the theater. I think some of it's in the back, in the barn area. Or I think costumes and props live.
yeah, yeah, God knows.
But that's fundable.
Well, it sounds like you're saying it's fundable out of whatever you call
Our
it,
administrative funds.
yes.
So it'd be
So technically, that's not the SHC finding, though, that this is any of these
no,
things
but
under step 3.
that's what I'm thinking. I mean, clearly, some of these applications have very high amounts attached to them, and it's not going to be possible to fund everyone completely. So it's really important for us to say that they're okay to be funded. And then the calculator will decide how much. The other thing. And it's a fact because they're raising so much money. I mean, they could actually have an opportunity to fund a person and call it, the Mary Jane Jones Curator of Archival Collections. Those are kinds of funding opportunities that they usually use for that kind of project. Usually, yeah. Funny, one of these is a rendering by Terry Halleck, and I can't tell whether that is what actually got done at that point or it's not dated. Give up.
So this is just difficult to write. I'm trying to do this dichotomy, if you will.
I know.
So the third question, step 3, requires a 2-part analysis. First, as to the restoration work on the Playhouse itself with respect to creating space for archival material. This work is part of a proposed major rehabilitation and or restoration of the Playhouse building. And so it satisfies step 3, open parens, so long as the work shall comply with the Secretary's standards. I got all that language. Period. Then we have to say whatever we're going to say about this guy that I think we're going to say it's really not recoverable under the historical finding, but it could be recoverable as administrative funds, hiring the archivist or whatever the hell it is. So let me try to write something about that.
And for the record, they understand that.
Yeah,
They were
so I think
told
we're
that in the
good, we're
meeting
good.
and they've got it in the application. So I think that's a good compromise. It's going to be a big job.
Yeah, and it's good that it's not till 2028 at the 100th anniversary.
Maria, I bet you have this postcard too. That's at the old location, isn't it? The casino postcard?
Yes,
Because I can see a house here.
yes.
Just don't know what the date is on that. It's interesting how in some of their proposals, well, only one of them, the pediments over the door sort of got dropped off. That really makes that design, those little pointy, instead of a flat.
So let me read you what I've tentatively written. Second, as to the engagement of the consultant, the SHC does not believe that that work is recoverable under step 3, semicolon. However, comma, the SHC understands that the CPC might fund up to $5,000 from its administrative funds.
That works
Sound okay to you, Maria?
because they need the plan desperately.
Yep. Sounds good. All right, 1 down, 9 to go.
So the next.
Some of them are faster, I think.
Oh, yes, I'm really quick. Number 2 is under the Stockbridge Historical Commission's purview, and it's the Berkshire Waldorf High School. This request is for creating a community room in the newly purchased Old Town Hall building. And I am hard pressed to find a description of this room, except that the construction company has isolated for Pam Sandler certain things relating to the kitchen room 204 and a meeting room 205.
Yeah, I thought that was hard to follow.
So I'm certainly, I'm not going to be the only one who's going to do this. People are going to say, what is this?
Yeah.
I think what they had said, I think Teresa said this to me, Teresa O'Brien, that they wanted to try to isolate, like in the old police station, sort of a history room.
Yep.
But the more I'm reading this might be the community room, i.e. the upstairs hall space.
Yeah, I was kind of sensing that you
So,
were right about
I
that.
think, what else did I
But, yeah,
say?
it's kind of weird that they gave us these quotes from this construction company that don't clearly say, these are for what the application is talking about.
Well, the other thing is that I'm going to bring this up right now because I'm certainly bringing up the need. This is 10 pages of stuff. But I was shocked to find that they are asking to have 22 dumpsters paid for to the tune of $17,000 to remove materials. And so I immediately started and said, are these historic materials? Because they probably shouldn't be ripping out original features and putting them in the dumpster. But since we don't have this before us to really know what they're doing, I mean, that's a red flag right there, but
Well, and that's something that I think Maria brought up when we met with Mike Canales back in August. Or maybe you brought it up, or maybe we all brought it up, that some serious thinking needs to be done before the town parts with the old town hall, which may be happening any minute now, or maybe already has happened.
It has transferred, but what hasn't happened is a requirement of all this. The town officials were going into the town hall. I think it was last week. I'm going to call it Proctor Hall. It's so confusing right now. Proctor Hall. And they are going through everything that is still there. And the plaques are mentioned in something that I got. So I think even if they take them out of there, that copies should go back in there, just not, I'm photographs. So the history of the building is in the building as well as in the town archives where it should be. So
I've taken pictures of all.
I was gonna say, you have the best pictures right now, so it would be really nice to do that. And I think that was something that they were thinking they could collaborate with the Stockbridge Muncies and the high school students and all that to do that. But I think right now that's something we'll have to clarify in the public meeting because
Yes.
but
Yeah,
let's
that's
just,
for the next meeting.
let's go with the fact.
So let me tell you what my theory is
Okay.
of this. First of all, we reviewed this project last year and approved, as far as we were concerned, that it was fundable under the Community Preservation Act. And I think yes, and the town gave money. Now that was for elevators and other, accessibility issues. Last year, they were estimating the project at 4.2 million. This year, they're estimating the project at 8 million, which probably is more realistic. I don't know. The entire restoration of Proctor Hall, if you will. And so today they're asking for 232,000 for the creation of a community room, which we can't really tell exactly where the heck it is. But to me, the question that we just have to decide is, will the funds be spent on any of these three things in step three, including rehabilitation of a historic resource? And this is a giant project to rehabilitate Proctor Hall. And a relatively small percentage of it is this community room. I don't really, in a way, know why they singled that out, but that's nice. They singled something out.
Another problem, they're only going through this 1 year. I mean, this should be parsed right down to none of this is going to work that fast, I think.
Yeah, that's true, right. It's almost like the total cost is 8 million and each year they don't really know probably because it'll depend on how fast work can happen, et cetera, et cetera.
But I could see them coming back and asking for this
Oh, I
amount
could
and
totally
this
see them
amount and
coming
this
back,
amount.
yes.
And so what I'm concerned about is the financial planning. And there's one little piece here that made me curious. Okay, it's in the narrative. They're asking for the money, even though they haven't started. Okay, our building committee, blah, 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 blah. Where's the thing? The building's sale was not finalized until February the 2nd, 2024. And somewhere here they say that the $185,000,
Yeah,
They asked
they
for-
didn't spend last year's money,
so
basically.
they're not going to remove that from the ask.
And who could blame them? Well, I think they've already gotten that. I assume the town meeting voted it.
But they haven't done any of the work.
Yeah, but
But they haven't reported that they haven't done the work too. And
well, now
that's-
they've reported that they haven't done
Yeah,
the work.
but that doesn't count because what happens is that
Well,
Erica, who keeps very good track of this, she said, these people have no report. What did they do? And I
Well,
have
and
to
the
say,
answer is they didn't do
I don't
anything.
know either.
Yeah,
So
I don't know.
that's kind of a stipulation on taking the money.
To me, that's a CPA problem, not a historical commission problem.
Well, then I
Like
think,
our job is simply to say, is this 200,000 that they're asking for going to be spent on rehabilitation of a historic resource? And I say yes.
I think it is too.
Cool.
I think the amount will come under question, but
Yeah, but that's up to the CPA.
yeah, see what here's what I'm nervous about in some of the applications. They've taken all the boilerplate that we already have when we know, and it's in the public domain, that information. But they don't talk about their specific plans and what their board feels is a priority at this time. I mean, I'd love to have a letter
Okay,
from the
and to me,
board.
though, that's a CPA or CPC issue and not a historical commission issue.
Yeah, but it's a planning issue for sure.
Yeah, so.
So I think we just
We just
say,
have to satisfy these things.
let's make sure that you could copy exactly what we did last year, but because the building
Well,
hasn't changed.
I did copy some of it,
Excellent.
and then I talked, I mean, perhaps you saw some.
I read it on the screen.
Yes.
I did. I read it on the screen and I thought,
So are you okay with that language?
Yes,
All right, so I won't read it all.
because
Well, that language is now in the minutes.
our opinion hasn't changed on that.
Yes, that's
So
right.
that's the most important part.
So this is just another part of this big project, and it's up to the committee to decide how much they want to.
This is a qualified project.
Yes.
Okay,
Well-
now, the third project that has come to the Historical Commission is the Guerrieri block on the building at 40 Main Street. I have no idea who the submitter is.
Apparently this person who owns the building now.
Yeah, but wouldn't it be nice to tell us who it is?
Well,
You think it's Sonsini or is that Teresa Sonsini?
it's Teresa Sonsini,
Okay,
see 1B on page 2
let
of
me
the
go back over
application.
here. Transfer of ownership. So this is an LLC they've
Yeah, and
created.
she's
Okay,
saying that she's the principal behind the LLC.
so
So I think it's kind of cool. And I think it's great that they want to restore the building. It's up to the committee to decide how much money they might want to give to it. But to me, the building is clearly on the National Register. It's a contributing building, it's one of the main three
okay, so
buildings.
I've got, it's this one,
Yes.
right? Okay, so they're calling it this is the Greek Revival Building. This is the Colonial Revival Building. So my interest in this is, we got different windows on both sides. What did this thing look like? And what year is this picture? Because look how old the cars are.
Yeah,
This is the Norman Rockwell
Right.
window
yeah,
change.
yeah.
is it attached to the Williams building or is it just but one another?
Oh, you seem to touch
That's
here.
right.
I'm going to go in town and walk around the back because
Right,
Which-
that's
which
in the,
one?
that's in the song, right?
what's in the back? One of these places has the barn where I think Pam Sandler used to have her office in it. I probably should look at Peggy's thing, quick look at the map. But anyhow, I think this building has changed hands also.
Yeah,
Since-
there's an article in the Eagle about all that.
And this one has also changed. So the Main Street, this is kind of interesting that 3 in a row are now under different ownership.
And it's, as far as I'm concerned, it's great that at least one of the owners is saying,
Yeah.
I want to do a significant rehab of the building, which, I think probably has had neglected maintenance over the years.
Well, there's a couple things. It's 100+ years old, for sure. It is not Greek Revival, it's Colonial Revival, and Peggy calls it that. Then they're asking for the historic tax credits as their match. And I don't quite understand when they're going to get the tax credits.
Right, and I don't know if they're going to get them, but again, that's to me a CPC issue and not a historical.
Well, the Historical Commission problem is that all these things, as they have said, comply to the Secretary of the Interior standards, may not be accurate. Open cell spray foam insulation, you know, and God bless them if they want to make 20 wood historically compliant replacement windows. But a lot cheaper would be to put interior storms on them to make them, double pane and leave the original woodwork on the outside. 5 door replacements, awning repair and roofing. I don't know if the awning is historical. Are they calling this the awning or is there another
I
awning?
bet that might be the owner.
Yeah. So I guess this would be, it's combination commercial and residential,
Yes,
because this is the store. And this was the loft. Oh, and there's another story. God, I'm not even noticing that up till now. Ice melting heat cable, I mean, that's not something the Department of the Interior. Let me just see what they. Yeah, I mean, this is where it gets sticky because I would sure love to hear more about their actual plans. All of this is material that we already have diced and sliced.
So my theory about this, which is just my theory, and I did a little bit of research, which I shared with you all,
Yes,
that if you're doing a major rehabilitation of a historic building, we don't need a nickel and dime every little thing that they're doing. Like, well, if they were just painting, that probably wouldn't be
Mhm.
recoverable. But since it's part of a huge
Mhm.
project, or fixing the insulation, whatever, that might not be the most historic thing in the world to be doing whatever they're doing with the insulation, open, all spray foam. But you're restoring a historic building in a way that will hopefully make it last another 100 years. And as long as you're doing that, all of the work is part of what we need to decide, which is it rehabilitation of a historic research as opposed to maintenance?
wait a minute.
And I
Okay,
think
up
this is
to
clearly more than maintenance. And
repair,
otherwise, I don't think we need to
Repair.
obsess about any particular little thing that's
repair.
involved in the project.
I would suspect that, all right, how much are they asking for? Ooh, it's a lot.
Yeah, and again, that's up to the CBC to decide how much they want to give them. I mean, it's an interesting question too, because this is a private building, I mean, is that different than a nonprofit? I don't know, but that's not our problem.
Well, technically, we've had at least 2 applications for individual properties.
Yeah, I remember that, the inn in Curtisville.
And then, the old corner house. When it was owned by,
Oh, really? When it was owned by, but those are all nonprofits.
No, no, no.
Oh, really?
No,
Oh,
no, it
right,
was
there
a
was a
family.
private person.
I
Oh,
think
yes, I
it was-
remember that.
it's a
Yes, yes,
man.
yes. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
okay. So I would
Oh,
think.
yeah, but again, that's not our problem.
Yeah, I think that they might, I'm thinking that this larger committee might be interested in the facade improvements. But wouldn't you love to have a new septic line in your house? Hook up for the sewer?
Yeah, so I could totally see the committee saying, yeah, this is nice,
Yeah.
right, we'll pay you to fix up the part that we can see because it's a historic building, we like to see it. And right, and if you want to get a new bathroom or something, that's,
Well, they got,
Your
I mean,
expense.
clearly there's a lot that's gonna happen there, but let's say, can you read what you wrote for the gray area block?
yes.
Okay,
This application seeks funding for the rehabilitation/restoration of the building at 40 Main Street. As is the case with the old town hall, the Guerrieri block is located in the Main Street National Register Historic District, to which it is a contributing building. Friends, steps 1 and 2, or friends. The SHC next considered step 3. In general, the proposed work for which funding is sought in the application is to rehabilitate and/or restore both the exterior and the interior of the hall. Okay, I changed that to the block. It's not a hall. It's funny that they call it a block, but even in the historic. record, they call
I
it a
amended it
block.
to say historic, I said, Guerrieri block building, so it was clear that.
Yeah, it's not the whole block.
Right, when you look at that, I could see, individually creating the buildings under one owner. but-
Okay, so
Yep.
I'm gonna make a change in here.
Okay,
So now I'm calling it the Guerrieri block building, and then I'm gonna use the word building in this sentence where I say that we next consider step 3. In general, the proposed work for which funding is sought in the application is to rehabilitate and/or restore both the exterior and the interior of the building. According to the application, the exterior is to be restored with no significant changes. The applicant appears to be familiar with the Secretary's standards and has itemized the proposed work that it believes would qualify under the CPA and would conform with the Secretary's standards. The total planned work on the project is estimated to cost $251,600. Semicolon. The applicant asserts that $152,100 of that work will be done in conformity with the Secretary's standards. and the applicant asserts that all such work is fundable under the CPA. The application seeks funding of that full $152,100. The SHC did a search for information regarding whether some or all of the work sought to be recovered in this application is recoverable as rehabilitation or restoration under the CPA. The search uncovered the Department of Revenue's April 3rd, 2014 letter to Massachusetts Representative Cantwell, which advises that such work, quote, that is an integral part of a larger eligible rehabilitation or restoration project, i.e. painting after substantial repair or restoration of walls, woodwork, trim, or siding, et cetera, is recoverable, close quote, is recoverable under the CPA. And then I cited where that is on the internet. And it's a Department of Revenue letter. Accordingly, the SHC believes that the proposed rehabilitation and restoration work proposed in the application, so I don't need proposed twice, I'm taking one of those out, satisfies step 3 of the CPA. So this is a rather windy way of saying what I'm saying here, which is that it's a big project and they're fixing up the building and we don't need to nickel and dime each little line of what they're doing.
Can you go to the top of that just for 1 minute?
Yeah,
On the next
way
page. Yeah,
prior.
yeah. Here's where I'd love you to put Colonial Revival Guerrieri Block Building, because they keep calling it Greek Revival. And that's why I was concerned they confused it with the one next door.
And if you check the, what's on
Registry?
the registry,
Yeah, here's,
and is Colonial Revival initial cap or anything like that or small?
let me see what Peggy did.
Yeah, I would like to see what Peggy did. Oh, good.
Okay, right here.
Oh,
And
did they
then,
copy that? Oh, yeah, good job.
and they copied that, but they didn't.
Gotta give them credit for their work here.
The Guerrieri Block, 1921, classic, blah, 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 blah. Where does she say Colonial Revival? Yeah, right here. Colonial Revival doorway on the side of the two.
So that's like Peggy, right?
This is Peggy.
Okay, and that's what you're saying, and you're, and.
And that's what I'm
okay.
saying. And then
She's
she,
got initial caps, I can do that now.
where, yeah,
So, and these other people were saying something different?
I'm missing
applicant?
page 3. Give me yeah, they call it Greek Revival. Page 3.
Oh, yeah, I see it, under number 3 on page 2, down toward the bottom.
Yeah.
Um,
What is page
40
3?
Main will again become the Greek revival
Yeah.
gem first imagined by MasterCraft. Right, so that's clearly a mistake.
Yeah, it's,
Good job by you, Linda.
well, because once somebody's gonna look at there and say, it's 1921, it's not applicable. Well, it is. It's 100+ years old.
Yeah,
And what's page, do you have a page 3?
no, apparently it's just 2 pages, which makes sense because there's only 3 questions and it ends
But they're
therefore at
numbering,
page 2.
are they numbering the next one?
They're not, because those are just the attachment.
Okay, I just want to, oh,
Oh, I stand corrected. There is.
We
a
got it.
page 3.
That's what it is.
Their breakdown.
okay, we're good.
Cool. Maria,
drew-
is that language okay with you?
I dropped this on the floor at one point, so I had to.
That's potentially disastrous.
Yes,
All
it
right,
is.
we're on to
Pages in
Riverbrook.
order. Yes, we are. Now, Riverbrook, this also is coming to the Historical Commission. I just want to check one thing. If they're applying to affordable housing as well. Yes, they are. So, I think this is a reasonable amount. It is historic, no question about it.
Yes, we have found in the past.
So I think we just let this ride as is. I was curious why they had, oh no, wait a minute. No, this is in New York State. I wonder why they don't have any Massachusetts Masons on this. It's the same with the cemetery. I mean, the Catholic cemetery. St. Joseph's, let's do that. So I
And
don't.
at least St. Joseph's is saying, this was our first bid, we're gonna try to get
Yeah,
more bids.
Yeah, so I think,
This one, yeah, I don't know. But of course, that's not our problem.
well, here's my point. If it's not a problem, then I think this committee, or, the committee could also ask affordable housing to put something towards this because it is a chimney that's
Well, yes,
active.
and they've checked affordable
Yeah.
housing on the application as well as historic. So yeah, that would be good.
Sharing it a
I
little,
urge you to say that at the
because
meeting.
it looks to me like affordable housing does not have quite the,
Zillions of.
I mean, this is a
applications
lot.
that we do,
I
yes.
was so shocked when I sat there. I edited it myself and then I made Dick put it on the calculator and he goes,
Yeah, I can believe it.
All right.
So we've all looked at my proposed language. Is that okay?
Yes, I think whatever you
right.
said before.
St. Joseph's Cemetery, we're up to. This was a hard one. I have no idea what we should.
I struggled
That's
with this.
step 2, which is the question of, so I think it's clearly a structure. That's step 1.
Yes.
But so step 2, it's not on the Register of Historic Places. It's not even in the Church Street Potential Historic District. I checked that this morning.
Down to the corner even?
It just isn't included. Like she just did the houses on that street. So it's sort of up to us to make a finding.
This is 1870 that property.
Yeah, I really don't know why
purchased.
she didn't mention it.
There are some lapses and a couple other things and I just don't know. Maybe she was
Every
doing,
now and then Peggy seems to miss something.
but it's funny because no one else picked up on it locally at the time, some of those misses. So.
So we have to make a finding, which we could. So the
Mhm.
question before us is, are we going to find that the arch is significant to the history, archaeology, architecture, or culture of your city or town? I kind of feel like we could find. There's 2 cemeteries in town. I don't know what percentage, but a substantial percentage of the population of Stockbridge is buried in that cemetery. The
exactly.
Catholic Church got together and created this cemetery back in the day. They built this beautiful arch. And it would be a shame for that beautiful arch to go away, given how I think it is sort of integral to our.
I'm going to play Mary Flynn here because when they put all the time and money into the, repairing the records for the Stockbridge Cemetery and doing the ground penetrating radar and, new mapping. I said, are you ever going to do the Stockbridge or the St. Joseph Cemetery? Because there's the other half of the history of the town in terms of burials. So people kind of looked at me and I guess they thought it belonged to the church. So.
Well, it does belong to the church, right?
Well, let me just see who
The
purchased it.
cemetery.
It says St. Joseph Cemetery property,
Yeah.
so I would think.
And
Or is it
I
just
could see where
named
the
after-
lawyers may be wringing their hands about religion, blah, 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 but that again isn't our problem.
Well, I think in this case, well, there's 2 things. One is that the whatever it was in terms of the church situation
Yeah,
was settled out of court.
right.
Unsatisfactorily, says Stuart Saginar, but I was going to look that up again. And the second thing is, since the churches themselves are considered gathering places in small communities, I don't think anyone's going to argue this one is what I'm trying to
Well, I
say.
agree with that. Only the lawyers might.
Yes.
I say I applaud the CPC for not getting hung up on the anti-aid amendment, for God's sakes.
Well, after I heard that extra information about it, which is really all about school districting in Boston in the 1840s.
Yeah.
Hello.
So can you people help me?
Yes.
We need to write some language. So here's what I've got so far. This project involves rehabilitation/restoration of the stone arch at the entrance to the St. Joseph Cemetery on Church Street. Step 1 is satisfied as the arch is a structure. The arch is not listed on the Register of Historic Places, and so to satisfy step 2, the SHC must find that the arch is, quote, significant to the history, archaeology, architecture, or culture of Stockbridge. As to this step, the SHC found that the arch is significant to the history and culture of Stockbridge because, and now I'm ready for your words.
Can we put in there 150-year-old stone arch and pillars?
Yeah, that sounds good. Let's see, very good, of the 150, do we know it's under 50 years old?
Well, it says so here, so
Okay, we're
I
getting.
don't know, but that's what they're
that
saying.
sounds good
I
to me.
think Arthur and Father
I mean, it's
McGrath
not-
wrote this.
150 years isn't so long ago anymore, I'm finding.
Yeah.
stone arch and pillars.
Okay, yeah, I noticed those pillars when I drove by this morning.
Well, once I cut those hemlocks down.
It was,
you can
yeah,
really
that was a
see
good
it
idea, you know,
nice, yeah.
so it's interesting that the town was in charge of like maintenance of the property and the town didn't do much, basically. So now that they've given it back to the
Fascinating.
church is like saying, oh, yeah, we should do something.
You know, back to the National Registers and historic thing, can we say something like, but it is listed in the Stockbridge survey of historic buildings or historic, what do we call that?
What Stockbridge survey you're referring to?
Well, you've
Oh,
got the
that thing
state.
that Greg did something.
No, but we will have a form in Macris. Right?
Well, if you search Makers, it doesn't come up.
Oh, it doesn't? Because you
No.
did that when you were
Yeah,
trying to
I
figure out
brought
the,
up, I
okay.
brought up Makers maps and the, you know, they have little, you can click on
The little thing, yeah.
things. And the first thing, you know, I clicked everywhere and it was all houses. There were no arches. So yeah, it's not there, but that doesn't mean we can't make a finding. So help me with the
Okay.
language. As to this
Try.
step, the SAC found that the arch is significant to the history and culture of Stockbridge because somebody wax poetic, please.
It is, let me just think how, I'm a wordsmith here. It's a significant cemetery housing a considerable number of Stockbridge
Okay, hold on.
residents, something like
I'm
that.
going to say the arch is the entryway or.
They use the language, it's been a highly visible monument on Church Street.
That's good.
More visible now.
Okay, because the church is a highly visible monument on Church Street that is the entranceway to, and I think we can pick up your language, Linda, to a
I started to write
cemetery
it down.
where a large number of townspeople have been buried for the last 150 years.
You got it.
Cool, I think that's good.
Did
And
you,
then,
did you say the church is or
well, it's a good question. We should check. As to this step, the SHC found that the arch is significant to the history and culture of Stockbridge because the arch is a highly visible monument on Church Street that is the entrance to a cemetery where a large number of townspeople have been buried for the past 150 years. But yes, the way I pronounce arch and church do sound similar, so thank you for keeping on. And then it's to step 3, I wrote, finally, step 3 is satisfied as the proposed work involves capital improvements or extraordinary repairs to the arch
and pillars?
and pillars. Thank you.
I wonder who designed it. It's really very cool.
It is fascinating. I feel like I read something about it not long ago, but I can't
I
remember.
can't remember if I ever, I brought my book, I don't know whether I ever found out who.
Oh, I think it,
Yeah, oh, do you have, is there a plaque on it like that?
No,
How did it
but-
make your book, but you got it in
Because
there
I
anyway?
considered it a monument.
Oh, way to go, nice. It is
I
kind of a
just
monument.
felt it was a monument.
Oh, well, there's a whole other reason significant. It's in Maria's book. Yeah, let us know if there's anything in the book that you should read.
6.
Okay.
Who's next in the alphabet?
St. Paul's.
Okay.
No, I never did find out who did it.
Anything else?
I just found out that there was a quote from 1870, the Catholics have lately purchased a 4-acre lot for the burying ground. And last week, a deputation went Riley and Springfield with the view to having the ground consecrated. So it was consecrated back in
Ah.
1870.
That confirms the 150 years.
Yeah.
Way to go.
You can't argue with the church records. I wonder where those records are. That might be helpful. Probably Springfield. I don't know why I think that, but,
No, that's Springfield.
okay,
St.
so
Paul's.
St. Paul's. This, I mean, Georgia did a very thorough application, and then she sent another piece. Did I forward that to you?
I think so.
Sally, and I can't even
I
remember.
had some weird questions.
Yeah, first of all, I think what was the hard thing, she was trying to say that paying for the roof in full might not be possible because,
All right,
we
she wanted to
paid-
pay the difference between what it costs to do an asphalt roof
Right.
and a slate roof.
so here's the problem. They have spent a lot of time figuring out the slate roof, and they've got the primo guy. So outside of Mattapan Roofing in Boston, he's the best, this one. So I feel like they don't get a different opportunity with this. They needed to get the roof on, and then it's like the capstone of everything. Then they can do the gutters, the
Yeah.
scuppers, they can
Right,
do
you gotta stop the problem.
and then the next round should be the stone repointing, cleaning, replacing if needed. And I think that the consultant, she's got his recommendations in there, have nailed that.
Yeah, Preservation Inc. is really good.
So the only thing, oh God, well, and she's looking ahead. She's putting it out there for 3 years. So that makes it palatable.
Yeah, way to go.
Mahan, let's see. Oh, wow, 139. That seems really cheap.
Well, it's not clear what that was for because there was a little bit of unclear language, I thought, in the question 1.2 answer with, they say, also attached is a quote from Mahan Slate Roofing Company. Founding partner of Preservation Inc., William Remsen, has reviewed Mahan's proposal. Mr. Remsen verbally stated that a better estimate of the necessary work according to historic preservation will be more fully understood once the written assessment is completed. In the meantime, Mr. Remsen further stated that he believes the Mahan estimate to be at least double on his initial visual inspection. So I wasn't quite sure what that meant, like twice as much as what Mahan was saying.
Yeah, she told me that verbally at one point. Actually,
And
that was,
and I don't even see a Mahan quote that makes any sense.
got to go 2 pages into it.
I've got this little thing here.
No, wait a minute. So I just looked at it. It's pretty thorough with what he's offering. Okay, so here's this one. The date is 8/15.
And that's like pennies, like that's like, I don't know, $40,000 or something. So that.
Isn't,
clearly
wait a minute,
can't
are we
be
looking at the same
all.
page? There's no total in money. It goes
Right,
right
I'm
to the
just
next.
adding it quickly. 3
Oh,
plus 8 plus
okay, I
8
see what
plus
you're
3
saying.
plus 6 plus X.
And then it goes to this. And then
Oh,
it
okay.
ends at 139.
Okay, sorry. When I was Xeroxing, I think I didn't Xerox everything.
Okay.
I didn't have 3.
So that's fine. I could see this doubling. I mean,
Okay,
it seems
okay.
very cheap to me. And there are cheating things they can do. They can put the bad slate on the backside or the new slate on the backside or, all kinds of stuff.
Cool.
And they'll figure that out.
So I shared some language with you all.
Go for it.
You want me to read it?
Sure.
St. Paul's Church. This project involves proposed rehabilitation, restoration of the slate roof of the church building, as well as some related work to remediate water infiltration issues. As is the case with the Old Town Hall and the Guerreri Block, the church is located in the Main Street National Register Historic District, to which it is a contributing building, parens, steps 1 and 2, close parens. The work involves capital improvements or extraordinary repairs to the church building. That's language right out of the CPA. And that work is to be overseen by noted historic preservation firm, Preservation Inc. And so it appears that the work will be done in accordance with the Secretary's standards. Thus, step 3 is satisfied as well.
Yeah, I think the biggest argument, Sally brought up this roofing problem, but also something about the windows not being applicable. But rereading her materials, a lot of the windows are not religious as memorials. They
But
have
anyway,
flowers.
They're not asking for the windows.
They're going to
now,
ask
right?
her coming up if they can get the satisfaction.
Yes.
And I think.
So, right, yeah, so, right, you might do
Yeah.
the secular windows and not
There aren't many that aren't memorial.
Well, even if they're memorial,
cool.
I mean, they do have, I'm saying.
But
some-
memorial is good, right? No,
Yeah.
that's
yeah,
secular, like
Flowers,
Joe Schmo buys a window for Mrs.
Um,
Schmo.
the King Arthur. He's not a saint.
Cool. So, yeah, but that's for another day. So good. We're ready
Blake.
for the, who's next?
I believe we're down to the 7th, Karen Marshall.
Yeah, so we have two
Okay,
sanitary
SS.
applications.
So you had
So,
two.
yeah, I've got Karen's first. here.
Okay. On the fencing, the granite was a replacement. When? What happened there? Do you know?
Well, so there's some posts that are just like broken, falling apart.
I saw them. I did my cemetery trip about 3 weeks ago.
So, age, cars driving into them, God knows what.
Yeah.
So they're replacing the worst of the posts with copies, basically.
So they're granite ones and they're now in some places. When did those get in there? Do you know?
Well, aren't they all granite? Are you
No, they're
suggesting
marble.
that? Oh.
Half are marble, half are granite, according to what she wrote. Hang on just one
Well, yeah,
second.
so I
Let's see if the picture tells you
let's see.
better.
Yeah, let me look at my.
Okay, right here. These are granite. Granite posts will be replaced with marble posts, which was the original.
Okay.
Okay, so
So you're
here,
way ahead of me here. I didn't. make
well,
good
I had
copies.
a little work to do with this to understand. This may be marble. It's just so disgusting. You can't tell. These are the replacement posts installed in 2019. So you can see how white they are.
Yeah, so those are marble, right?
And these metal railings, those could use a little attention, but I think they're on the right track here. I would just, I'm going to say it, save the old ones, save the granite ones, because they might have a purpose on the backside of the cemetery, facing the back entrance to Namkeg, which is also town cemetery. But that's from the 1930s on, isn't it? When did they bought that property? I can't remember.
I'm not sure.
I can't remember whether the Choates sold it under Miss Choate or whether the trustees of reservations ceded that.
So, yeah, so you're helping me just understand that I had not focused on this. So they're talking about replacing 6 posts. And 3 are granite and 3 are marble, and they're going to replace them all with marble. And you've sort of raised the question, how did these granite ones get there? Which is an interesting question.
And they got their,
But it would seem that the marble is the historic
yeah.
one, that it should be done. So,
I mean, that's,
Is there other ones that are granite that are there that they're not replacing?
I think that's possible if they're not failing.
Oh,
I think they might be creeping around. I think the goal is to get the street sides looking sharp. That's what people
Yeah.
look at.
I kind of feel like they walked around and just, these are the worst ones in terms of they're really failing. And you didn't want to have, but I think there is hopes for a more substantial restoration of that fence because the iron bars, some of them are missing, et cetera, et cetera.
Those,
But
they
this
could
is like-
even put them in an aluminum and then they wouldn't rust and peel all
Good
over the
idea.
marble. Marble is very fragile.
Yes.
We all have learned.
So let's see, should we read what I've tentatively written and see what we think?
Yes, please.
Stockbridge Cemetery Commission first application. This application involves plans to replace damaged posts in the cemetery's historic border fence with historically accurate marble posts. The cemetery is within the boundaries of the Main Street National Register Historic District and is listed as contributing thereto. The stone and iron border fence is cited in STOB as important to the historic cemetery, and the SHC found that this structure, step 1, is part of the listing on the State Register of Historic Places, step 2, period. Finally, the proposed work constitutes rehabilitation or restoration of that historic resource, step 3.
You might want to say, is that the entry number?
Yeah,
Yes.
STOB is the Massachusetts Historical Commission area form.
Okay, in front of SUV, go with MHC
Got it.
and space, because somebody might not understand what that
Got
is.
it. Good call.
I don't understand it myself someday, so I have to.
Cool. Are we ready for the second application?
Oh, look who the submitter is. We won't let him say a word. Yes, I made a couple of notes in this. Let's see. Oh, I wanted to confirm the date. What date? Is it the date of the building? Do we have that?
I think the best we had was Rick Wilcox's
Okay,
guesstimate.
and Greg Farmer didn't comment on that either, so.
No. So the town bought the land around 1889. So Rick said, I suspect the cemetery barn / shed may have been built when the cemetery house was constructed. And after that section of the cemetery was purchased around 1889. But it could have been there longer.
Well, I guess the thing we really want to emphasize, it's a very rare building, an unusual survival of a vernacular building. It would be something that they would demo if they wanted to sell a good plot. I think there was no use for a hearse after a certain point. But
Yeah, so they turned it into a tool.
so they made it a
house.
tool shed. And I think that the one thing, well, I'm going to emphasize in the meeting is we don't want to over restore this building. We want to make it look like it did. And I can see there's a little controversy in the use of materials. But
Yeah, and so, right, Preservation Inc. is the latest consultant that has given us their analysis of how best to restore the building. I think they're pretty good.
and this is not in the National Register nomination, is it? No. Eesh.
That's right. It's not mentioned in the National Register, whereas the stone crypt thing or whatever it is.
Is it, I guess, just for, so is the house here?
No, the house is behind it.
There,
Yes.
okay.
So is it on cemetery property?
Yes.
Well, then what's in the cemetery is historic. So,
Yeah, so I'll read you what I've written for our.
okay, go for it.
This application involves restoration of the old hearse house on the grounds of the cemetery. As noted previously, the cemetery is listed on the Main Street National and State Historic Registries, and the hearse house is a building. Friends, steps 1 and 2.
Registers. Bridal
Oh, okay.
registry, National Register.
Oh, where would we be without?
Yeah, several people have done that. And I'm going to make sure everyone understands that.
National State Historic Registers, and the hearse house is a building, steps 1 and 2, that appears to date from the late 19th century and reflects an important part of the early history of the cemetery. The proposed work constitutes rehabilitation or restoration of the historic building that will be conducted in accordance with the Secretary's standards, and so the SHC found that step 3 is met as well.
Virgin Royalston. Boy, they're all kind of the same old deal. Not just big enough to pull the things in. Okay,
Sounds good.
I'm gonna look at those other towns that I haven't bothered to. I would say that nobody's telling, how long would it take to do this work?
I don't think it's gonna take that long once we have a qualified bidder.
Yeah, so
whose
is there,
bid we accept. I think Preservation Inc. is gonna oversee, so somebody like Jay Ryan, something might do the work.
And then we can get, I think what they're saying is very intelligent.
Yeah,
Not
they're
to
good.
replace with something that wasn't there. And just the things that can be done to make it secure from the
Yeah,
foundation.
exactly.
You can
Yes.
hide everything and you don't have
Yes.
to, then you clad it properly.
Yes. Yeah, so we are talking about, we're basically about saving the building, not making it fancy schmancy.
And I would argue that it could still be used as a shed, anything that the cemetery needs to keep there.
Yes, and I think that's the idea.
Okay.
It'll be used for cemetery stuff as opposed to town general maintenance-y stuff. So in other words, you wouldn't have a town lawnmower in there, but you might have extra cemetery posts in there. We might
Hmm.
have broken gravestone pieces in there.
Well, that I think as a rescue location would be great. Keep it near what it came from, so it
Yes.
doesn't get
Yes.
into the water
Yes.
building in Interlaken.
Yep.
Okay, that made me think of one other thing, but it's probably not relevant. Oh, who mows the cemetery? The town does?
Town does, and the cemetery commission is on their case to stop banging into the.
Yeah, I was gonna say, maybe a mowing protocol manual.
Yeah, oh yeah, we're working on
Landscape
that.
manual,
We're
'cause that
totally
would be
working on that.
the
And
perfect-
Preservation Inc. is heavily involved in that. We've
Okay.
sort of banned use of weed whackers around the historic stones, and we're trying to maybe plant some grasses like creeping thyme that won't need to be mowed so much.
You can come and dig it up at my house.
Yeah,
My historic time.
I'm working on trying to get it going in the Williams plot in Richmond.
Well,
It's a work in progress.
do you have it at your house already?
Yes.
Okay, so you're,
And yeah, so I've been moving some from my house, but you know where I found a really good stash of it that I hopefully I won't be arrested someday. But there are those mounds at the bottom of Kripalu's property where their septic system is. There's some real solid plots of just plain creeping thyme, because you don't want the grass intermingled in it.
right.
And so someday I'm going to go out there and cut up some
Well, what you do
pieces.
is edge for them.
exactly.
You do a creative edge.
Yes, and then I'll bring back the grass from the Richmond Cemetery and put it in its place.
Well, the,
Hopefully you won't be reading in the paper someday. I probably shouldn't have,
It's on
I
the,
probably shouldn't have this on the video.
well, you know what?
Hopefully no one's watching.
If we want to cooperate with Kripalu, they also have an application in to remove invasive species.
Oh, there we go.
So this is
So
a perfect time to
That's what that
intervene
basis
I'm
is.
helping
and make
them.
sure
Yeah, way
that,
to go.
okay,
Excellent. All right, back to business.
Are you done with that?
Stockbridge Library.
okay. I think this is just go for it. We've approved other things. I'm surprised they have only one estimate and it's hugely expensive. But at this point,
Yeah, so I sent you all a site from the Community Preservation
yes, okay.
Coalition that seems to suggest that it's important to protect, which is one of the things that preservation includes protection. So last year we gave the money to restore these beautiful daguerreotypes, or however you pronounce it.
Daguerreotypes, yeah.
And obviously it would be nice to be able to display them so people could see what the heck they saved. And yet you want to display them in a place that will protect them. And that's what this is for.
I forgot to ask them, but I think it was done, probably the before and after of those would also make a nice exhibit, because even the thing restored, and
Yeah, that
even
would
in
be
an
cool.
archival
I
case,
totally agree.
it's like the limitation is something like 6 weeks to have them on view. The light is such a problem for those chemically active plates. So I think maybe emphasizing the idea that they have other artifacts they could photograph and put in
And
a
I'm sure
case
they
like
can do
that.
it.
So I think,
Yeah.
let's just say fine and.
So should I read my Irish? history?
Yes, sir. Love to hear
This project
chapters.
involves the proposed purchase of a museum-quality archival table case with LED light bar to secure display of historic, pronounce that, please, daguerreotypes.
Why don't I just say artifacts, not, so we don't limit the case to that?
Well, I have daguerreotypes, artifacts and documents. So I've got all
Well,
three.
then you want to
want-
say.
do I just
you
take the
might wanna
daguerreotypes out?
Just get, yeah.
Okay, they're up.
Photographs could go in there. I mean, there's only any number. Textiles could go in there. So,
Period. The SLMA collection contains numerous priceless artifacts and documents that are significant to the history and culture of Stockbridge. Indeed, in regards to a 2023 CPA application by the SLMA, the SHC found that the preservation of certain 19th century photographs, shall I say, in the custody of the SLMA. I'm typing photograph. In the custody of the MSA was fundable under the CPA.
Let me back up. Those are daguerreotypes we funded. So you're right. Daguerreotypes goes right here.
It's gonna be so hard for me to type. You're gonna have to tell me how to type, spell it
Oh.
now that you've done.
Wait a minute, I've got it in front of me. Hold
Right
on.
here.
All
Yeah,
right, somebody read it to me and I'll type
DA. Keep going.
DA.
G U
You,
E R R E O T Y P E S.
Daguerre invented this printing process. He was a Frenchman.
Excellent.
Oh.
I mean, very early, like the
Never
1840s.
realized that's where the
Daguerre,
name
yeah,
came from.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because this application is for funds to purchase a museum quality display case for safe display of important historic artifacts, comma, the SHC found that the proposal involves, quote, protection of the items, quote, from injury, harm, or destruction, close quote, and so constitutes preservation thereof under the terms of the CPA, thus satisfying step 3. And then I've cited to that Community Preservation Coalition article that says the most important thing is to protect your documents.
Yeah, I think that's a good. Okay. Last but not least, this is not even anything to,
Yeah, and I don't have anything for this because I
okay.
didn't make myself a copy.
All right, here it is. So it's,
So, yeah.
What is
so,
he
okay,
calling
so
it?
what would we say? What is this application for or whatever?
we're gonna rename, he's calling it Civil War Monument. Soldiers Monument is the project name. And although the project is complete now, or it's completely done, they had to do a slight additional amount of work to get it complete. So the $198.50 is that. And this clinches it and it ends the bookkeeping nightmare of the 50 cents.
It's cost overrun to preserve and repair the town.
Yeah,
Blah, blah, blah.
and if they argue about it, I'm going to ask them to take it out of the Historical Commission's budget.
So
Shut them up.
can you help me with this again, Maria? You had something.
Yeah,
This
that's good.
application derives from cost overruns needed.
To preserve and repair the town's historic Civil War monument approved for FY20 CPC funds.
Let me check about a cost overrun. And we want to say Soldiers Monument, not Civil War Monument. We have to be politically correct, you think? I think they should plan some kind of an event on an anniversary of
I think
that.
there's some vague talk of that. So I need help finishing my
Yes,
sentence
go.
now. This application derives from a cost overrun needed to preserve and repair the town's apostrophe S
Yeah, historic
Soldiers Monument
approved for FY20 CPC funds.
20, exactly, not like.
It's
20.
like apostrophe 20 is the way they wrote it. FY.
Did he mean to do that or is that
Yeah,
a
I
typo?
thought it was more recently that we.
But it evidently was approved that.
Oh, no, that's the way they do, right? Well, let's see. So, but they didn't begin work until 2021, therefore.
Okay.
And then, yeah, so they're,
So should I just say something like, this project was previously approved by the SHC?
yep. Oh, yeah.
Awesome. Are we done?
I would like to call it done. I just want to see if there's anything else that just slipped through the cracks. Gosh. It's interesting in that, well, we're not going to go back and rehash it, but they had two choices on that case for the library. So we'll just ask in the meeting which one they chose.
Sounds good.
I have a feeling that some of these are going to be picked apart quite a bit, but. Anything else in my bag of tricks here? Oops. Oh, no, never mind. That's Kripalu. That's not.
Do you think the same person, Jenny Merrill in the Mieris firm is going to be the person I should send these minutes to?
I think you should go ahead and do that. I haven't heard to the contrary.
Yeah.
I mean, they're very good. That office is not so huge that you can't.
If it's someone else, you couldn't.
Yeah,
walk down
she
the
would.
hall.
I'd be sad if she left because she had very good, comprehension of all this.
Should we adjourn the meeting?
Let us adjourn the meeting.
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.